Hello, friends. We've talked about becoming a new manager up to growing a leader. Now we're going to this week talk about what are the leadership factors that you should consider so that you become a great leader. And the first thing is you need to decide on what kind of a leader do you want. Okay, we've looked at what to do, what not to do, what to focus on, and what are the things that you should consider on your journey to becoming a leader. But as we mentioned in the last episode, once you have reached that stage of becoming a leader, you need to be able to figure out and start becoming the kind of leader you want to be. You have to pick one of the leadership styles. You have to remember what your personality is. And today, based on all that, you should create your profile as a leader. So, having said this, let us first look at how you grow into leadership, so to say. You just become a leader. So you got into that position of becoming a leader. Now, during this period, when you're positioned, newly positioned, let me add, to becoming a leader, what are the first things that you need to tackle? And the first and foremost thing you need to do is to start building a rapport with your team. Because if you don't have a rapport with your team and you don't work in sync, you are going to fail as a leader because you can't do it all alone. And you need your team to be able to implement and execute your vision and roadmap to your strategic goals. And therefore, along with, or rather, to build the rapport with your team, you need to be able to communicate. We've said this very often, and there are a few things that are going to be repeated on whatever aspect you do, like trust, relationships, communication, walking the talk. These are all things that you will hear because these are the basic criteria that you need to be able to achieve and develop. So you need to be able to communicate very clearly and very effectively with your team. You need to be able to tell them in clear, precise terms what is your vision, what are your goals, what is expected of them. And by doing this and by building the rapport, what you are essentially doing is creating a trust factor with your team. And you will earn the respect of your team by doing all of this. Now, once you've positioned yourself and doing all, these are things that you need to do gradually, paced. You don't have to wait till you become perfect. As you know, I don't believe in perfectionism. But you don't have to wait till you become perfect or even completely proficient in building a rapport with your team. But you need to start growing all of these aspects simultaneously. So once you have started on the journey and positioned yourself, next step you need to do is to able to understand the individual personalities. Now you built a rapport with the team. You're in the process of building it. You're somewhat there, but you need to understand the unique individual peculiarities, the personalities of the teams. And this will help you to build the rapport much better. So, as I said, all of these things go hand in hand. There is no clear demarcation. There is no line, so to say, saying, okay, you've done this, now cross over to this. No, this is all going to go simultaneously. And you need to understand, along with the personalities, what are the working styles of each team member? What are their triggers? What are their strengths? What are the Yahoo moments and what are the demons? And you need to be able to help them overcome the demons, overcome the challenges, and make sure that their strengths are are used more and more. So to give them the feeling of success. Yeah. So these are things that you will do. As I said, it's all gradual. We may call it a stage, but now along with doing all this, you need to become the guy who delivers the product. You're a leader, but you need to be a guy who delivers the product. And what is the product that you have to deliver? It is about achieving your targets, your goals. So although you might have a strategic goal which takes 2 years, I'm sure that you break it down, your roadmap that you have created breaks it down into milestones. And you need to be delivering each of those milestones with efficiency and in such a way that not only you succeed or you get the feeling of success, but that your entire team feels that they have succeeded. And there are times during this process, and even otherwise, where you will need to focus on training and coaching your team so that everything that you want gets executed to the best. You need to give your team the opportunities to develop themselves and you need to monitor their progress. You need to be able to see what or discuss with them where they need to develop themselves, what level do they need to reach in particular traits and characteristics that they want to develop. And you need to monitor their progress in a positive manner. And ensure that always the atmosphere, the culture that you create within your organization is one of continuous learning, continuous improvement. Okay, because this is going to be a key to not only the success of your current goals, but all future goals. That culture is going to make sure that no matter how difficult or how new a goal you set for the organization, it is going to get achieved positively. Doing all this, you will automatically become a people and team player. And you need to be sure that as a great leader, you are ensuring, which I just said, that you are ensuring the development, growth, and success of each of the person who is working with you. Okay, so now you will frequently find that although you have a fantastic team, there may be certain components, certain parts of a project, which may be short-term, long-term, we don't know. But there will be parts where none of the team members are really proficient in doing that. At such time, talent development, if there is the scope for somebody within the team to be developed for that missing talent, or whether you need to acquire that talent. And that acquisition can be, if it's a short-term challenge, if you don't see that challenge in all the goals that you're going to create and the future of the organization in general, then for the short-term challenges, you will probably get in some freelancer, some temporary help, so to say, who are going to help you in that particular. But if it's going to be a long-term challenge, then you need to acquire that talent by getting additional people on board with you have to augment your team's capacity so that you get somebody who's going to be able to be proficient in that talent or in that process that is requiring. So that expertise has to be incorporated into your team. And to do all of this, you need to become a coach and mentor. You need to be able to understand your team, because there are times when they will not be happy telling you about their weaknesses. And then you might spend a lot of time hoping something gets done, but it doesn't get done, leading to compounded challenges. So once you do all of this on becoming or attaining that position of leadership, you are now well at the pinnacle. If you remember all of this and you incorporate all of this into your daily work, work strategy, okay, you are at the pinnacle and you are now ready and all set to become a legacy builder, a great leader who's going to build a legacy, not just for himself, but for his team and the organization. Just a word of caution here. I have very often seen when people reach this stage of able to create a legacy, they don't remain humble anymore. And that starts destroying what you have created rather than augmenting it. So just a word of caution. Okay. So now to develop your leadership style, the first thing you need to do is to ask yourself some few very simple, basic, but most essential questions. Who am I? That's the first question you should ask. And what do I value? And out of these things I value, what are negotiables and non-negotiables? And what is it that you want at the end of the day? And what is required of you to get what you want? And if you're willing to do that, if you're not willing to do that, then there's no way that you're going to get what you want. So these are the basic questions you should ask yourself on your path to great leadership. Okay. And when you start answering these questions and making notes of it, you need to remember certain things. Okay. There are bad bosses. And I'm sure you have encountered them at some. So if you haven't, trust me, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. You should bless your stars. But there are bad bosses, and you will encounter them. You may not encounter them directly as your boss, but you might encounter them as somebody whom you need to speak to and whom you need to listen to because they may be your customers. Okay, so what are the kind of bad bosses? One of them is the toxic boss. Another is a mediocre boss, but who thinks he is super. The micromanaging boss. They impede your growth. And the anarchist boss. He's well, let's not go there. Now, though all of these traits of bad bosses, the toxic ones, the mediocre ones, the micromanaging ones, we say are detrimental and bad, there are times when these traits are really actually helpful, depending on the situation. Okay, like a toxic boss. He is a great one to execute things where you're working on critical timelines, projects where a delay on your part of the project can lead to a delay and a loss of lots of money and manpower hours from other teams who are working on the same project. So the toxic boss at this time is great because, okay, I need it done because that's what is important at that time. But he can't be a toxic boss on everything. And then the same with a mediocre, who may sound mediocre, but that mediocre boss, that depiction is very important when you are trying to get your team to be self-motivated and to be able to manage and deliver without you. So when you show that, okay, I am not doing this, I can't do this, they are going to get spurred to do it, maybe just to prove a point. But in the process, they get trained. And that success makes them feel, wow, I did a great job. And the micromanagers. Now, when you're working with new teams who are not yet fully trained, micromanagers are the thing you need, who are looking at everything you do under a microscope, but they should be ones who also train you and educate you on each of those aspects that they are micromanaging. Okay, they should be able to assess you and help you to grow. Anarchist bosses are necessary when it's a thing about in situations of do or die. At that time, no other boss works. It's a do or die, he needs to be an anarchist. So these are the factors that you need to consider. At the same time, what are the superlative things? Likeable leaders. They have superlative listening skills. They trust their teams and everybody else, they do it. They are great coaches. Okay. They know how to create and present the vision of the company, of the organization, and help the team and other stakeholders to visualize the big picture. And they show resilience in the face of challenges. They acknowledge, as I said, they cannot do it alone and that they need the team. They are hands off, and their role for themselves is generally that of a lousy leader. Okay. And when they are hands off, at the same time, they're monitoring you and ensuring that you're doing the right thing. Okay. And they're generally micromanagers. Okay. But the hands-on people who are generally micromanagers are really necessary in certain situations, as we just said. Okay. So there are four different combinations of this. They are hands-off and they only look at the role and they're in the position only for a role for themselves. They're generally lousy leaders. Then they are hands-off, but they have the welfare and the well-being of the team at heart. Okay. These are decent leaders and they help the team to grow and prosper. Then they are hands-on, again, who are only for themselves. They are micromanagers and not supporting the team to grow. And then there are the hands-on, and the role is not just for themselves, but for their teams. These are the ones who generally make great leaders. Okay. And they help the team to grow, prosper along with themselves, even at the risk of micromanaging, which may be essential. Okay. So let's look now at the different kinds of leadership styles. We are going to run through them in maybe next 2 minutes. So just let us look at them. The first one is the coercive type. I'm sure you all understand what that means. They are generally least effective. It works in situations of immediate crisis when the team is not well trained, especially. But in the long run, it is very detrimental. Then you have the authoritative type. Authoritative, I don't mean authoritarian. Authoritarian is more like a dictator. You don't want that. Authoritative type, they are they are the ones who motivate the team. They are the ones who demonstrate how the work done by each individual member of the team connects in the bigger picture. They set clear guidelines, but do not micromanage. And this is the most effective and inspiring type of leadership. Then there's the pace setting type. I'm sure you know what that means. This style is needed when the team is working on very critical projects, okay, which is a part of a larger project, as we just mentioned. This can be detrimental if that pace setting time who sets lofty standards for the team, that's the setting he does, but he focuses only on failures. That becomes very demoralizing. Okay. And then you the affiliative type. Okay. These are people who create strong emotional connect and who have a sense of camaraderie with their team. This is positive and a supportive workplace, and that helps. And when blended with the authoritative style, this is a fantastic combination, and that leader will be truly great. And then you have the democratic one. Incorporates feedback, justice, everything. They are democratic, but sometimes this leads to failure because the teams may not respond well enough. And then the coach. The coach is one who is always training. That alone doesn't work, but it's an important part to be. So you have the different this thing, determine your this thing. As personally, what I have done and achieved over my years of life, I have found that no one style works all the time. Depending on the situation, depending on the phase of your achieving your goals, you will need to switch between styles, but that I believe is perfectly all right. And that is going to be the way to true success. And That is the way you are going to reach the true pinnacle of your this thing as a leader. Thank you. Hope you have enjoyed this session. We will look at the next session on what hampers and what helps great leadership. Thank you. Have a great day.